Turning now to politics, legal troubles continue to mount for former President Donald Trump, completely overshadowing the GOP budget meeting in Florida. Even though no indictments have been handed down, no evidence released, Republicans are ramping up rhetoric, shielding the former president and defending him at all costs. Take a listen.
President Trump announced he was going to run for president again, and suddenly here they go. Now they're coming after him for some alleged bookkeeping error. You've got to be kidding me.
The fact that the Manhattan DA thinks that indicting President Trump is his top priority, I think, just tells you everything you need to know about the radical left in this country.
They're making stuff up that they've never used against anybody because they hate Trump.
But no evidence has been released yet. Indictments were presumed to be very bad for the former president, but instead his poll numbers are only ticking up and appear to be helping him with his base. Here to discuss is Caroline Heldman, professor of critical theory and social justice at Occidental College. Good morning, Caroline.
Good morning, Giselle.
Just heard it. Before hearing any evidence or seeing any charges, no indictments, Republicans are mounting this huge public defense of Trump and suggesting he should have immunity. What do you make of it?
Well, it's what we've seen a lot of. This is still very much the party of Donald Trump, and folks want to get brownie points just in case he gets elected. And they're also concerned that if they don't defend him now, we know that Trump has a long memory and he has an enemies list, and they know this better than anyone. And so I think what we are seeing is even folks who might not necessarily support Donald Trump's presidency, they don't want to see him in the White House again, they're defending him in this case.
Even Speaker McCarthy, he's publicly defending the president, saying all the investigations, not just the Stormy Daniels ones, they're overreach, playing down Trump's calls to protest even. What tightrope is he walking, trying to preserve the extreme right of the base if evidence proves that there was some criminality involved?
Well, 4 investigations, all very serious investigations in different parts of the country. Obviously, nothing has been handed down yet, but McCarthy is in a terribly tight position. If you recall, for example, after January 6th, he said that the president bears some responsibility for the violent insurrection, and he very quickly shifted his position when he was assailed by Trump supporters. I think this really shows the stronghold of Donald Trump in the Republican Party, and the latest polls indicate that he is up 14 points over DeSantis. He's running at 41% support, which is very high this far out. It's still the party of Trump.
And not just the party of Trump, but Congress weighing in an unprecedented way. The Judiciary Chair, Jim Jordan, launches an investigation into the Manhattan DA's office, Alvin Bragg, who says, by the way, he will not be distracted by the circus. But still, Republicans are accusing Bragg of partisanship and egregious overreach. Here's the question, though, Caroline. Does Congress have jurisdiction to investigate the investigators, or is this political intimidation and obstruction of justice?
Well, I think it's definitely political intimidation. Do they legally have a right to do that? Yes. So the highest branch of the legislature does have the ability to investigate the judicial branch. What they are doing, though, is an incredible overreach of power. It's an abuse of power. It's not something that we have seen before, and they're not going to find anything. Bragg has actually been criticized by members of his own team for being too soft on Trump, for being too conservative in deciding whether or not to indict him. So they're not going to find anything, but this will certainly gain them, again, brownie points with Trump should he get elected.
Right. All right. Big news in the Mar-a-Lago documents case, trying to keep track of them all. Trump's own lawyer now being forced to testify by a judge who says there may be criminal wrongdoing, national security issues, and he will not be protected now by attorney-client privilege. I mean, how significant is this?
I think this is the most significant news of the day. I know that Trump, said that he was going to be indicted earlier in the week, and the press ran to New York, and there's a lot of focus there. But this decision is the most significant because what it finds is that a district judge had to first find that a crime had been committed and then extend that and say, look, Evan Cochran, who is Trump's attorney, is not protected by attorney-client privilege. But the key point there is a judge looked at it, and the reason that exemption was granted is because he believes there was enough evidence that a crime had been committed. Now, this is not a ruling on that. It has to go to a grand jury. It has to go through a process. But this is very damning for the former president.
Yeah, and some pundits say that this is the case should take precedence or come out first before any kind of Stormy Daniels case, which they see as diminished value. All right, you mentioned Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He also has weighed in, calling all these investigations law enforcement overreach, but he did quip, saying he knows nothing about payments to porn stars. Trump then fired back, accusing him of sexually assaulting a teenage boy. Now, this type of attack worked in 2016. Does it work in 2023?
I think it does. Presidential contests are always contests for different notions of masculinity. We've seen this throughout the years, whether or not it's a president who's not man enough to fill a helmet or a president who gets Botox. The 2016 election was especially teenage boyish, right? We saw hand size being discussed. That's the polite way of putting it. At a debate, we saw Rick Perry challenging Donald Trump to a pull-up contest. We saw little Marco Rubio talking about his shoes and his size. I think we are going to see, especially with DeSantis and Trump both in the race, we're going to see, essentially a teenage boy primary on the Republican side.
Only you can put it into context that way. All right, before I let you go quickly, Dominion's $1.6 billion defamation case against Fox News looking more perilous for the media giant. There's a Fox News producer that filed this explosive allegation against the network, saying that she was coerced into providing misleading Dominion testimony. How damaging? I know these defamation cases have a high bar, but are you changing your tune a little bit? You think this is really damaging for the network?
This is definitely damaging for the network. Abby Grossberg, who's a producer, came out and said that Fox put an incredible amount of pressure on her leading into the deposition to take the fall, and also Maria Bartiromo, who is a former on-air personality. And essentially, she said it was sexism. She said that they were trying to blame a woman producer and a woman on-air talent to protect prominent male producers and prominent male personalities, and that would be mostly Tucker Carlson, but not exclusively. This is pretty damning evidence that Fox knows that it was intentionally lying on air about the big lie. So who knows how this will turn out? As you note, defamation has a very high bar, but this is another point against Fox News.
As I've said for several years with you when we conclude all of our interviews, never a dull moment. Caroline Heldman, professor of critical theory and social justice at Occidental College, thank you so much for being with us, as you are every Thursday. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Giselle.